All right, today we're zeroing in on a really special primate, one you can't find anywhere else on Earth, the booted macaque of Southeast Sulawesi. Think of this as a focus briefing, a deep dive into the very latest science, all designed to give folks like you, the reserve managers on the ground, the critical data you need to protect them.
Okay, let's just get right to it. The booted macaque is totally unique to this one spot on the planet, and as you can see, its official status is vulnerable. Now, that's not just a word on a list, it is a serious warning sign. It's exactly why we're here today, to really understand the pressures they're under and start building a real strategy for their survival.
So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll get the lay of the land. What's the current situation? Then we're going to zoom right in on what they specifically need, their habitat and their pretty complex social lives. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll pull it all together into a clear, actionable plan that you can actually use.
All right, Section 1, the situation. Our focus is squarely on the ground, inside the Tanjung Peropa Wildlife Reserve. This is where the story unfolds.
So this is the place, a critical sanctuary of nearly 39,000 hectares. But here's the kicker, the piece of context that changes everything. Before this research, the last time anyone collected solid data on this population was 35 years ago. 35 years. We've basically been flying blind. This new work finally, gives us a vital, long overdue update.
So, what is this new data telling us about their habitat? Let's jump into Section 2 and figure out what these macaques truly need from their environment, not just to survive, but to actually thrive.
You know, the research makes one thing incredibly clear. These macaques live their lives in the trees. We call them arboreal, which is a fancy way of saying the vertical structure of the forest isn't just part of their world, it is their world. They live, eat, and travel through very specific layers way up in the canopy. And here are the two most important layers for them. I want you to think of these as their superhighways in the sky. You've got stratum B way up there at 20 to 30 meters and stratum C just below it. This is where they spend their days. The health and, maybe more importantly, the connectivity of these layers are absolutely essential for everything they do. So what are they doing all the way up there in the canopy? Well, the answer is pretty simple. They're eating. The booted macaque is a frugivore. That means fruit isn't just part of their diet, it's the absolute cornerstone. Now, this study identified 33 different food plants, but one family really stands out, Moraceae. Trees like Artocarpus and especially ficus are their 5-star restaurants. And these aren't just empty calories. We're talking about ficus species that are packed with vital nutrients like calcium and magnesium. The takeaway here is so direct. If you protect these specific trees, you are protecting the macaques. It's that simple. And here's a really cool little ecological tidbit from the field. Researchers consistently saw two bird species, the Sulawesi Black and the hair-crested drongo, just following the macaques groups around. And this isn't just some new scientific discovery. The local communities have known this for years. They actually use these birds as indicators to find macaques. It's a really powerful reminder of how valuable local knowledge can be. Okay, Section 3. We know where they live, we know what they eat. Now let's see how that all translates into their population numbers and their social lives. This is the number we've been waiting for. The study gives us a brand new, crucial figure, 22.4 individuals per square kilometer. This is our new baseline. From now on, every decision we make has to be measured against this number. But that number alone doesn't tell the whole story. To really get it, you have to see the context. The last time this was measured, way back in 1982, the density was almost 32. Look at that drop. In just a generation or two, we've seen a really significant decline. This isn't just a number on a chart. It's the hard evidence behind that vulnerable status. So within the study area, researchers were able to identify 4 distinct groups. They have this complex multi-male, multi-female social structure, and each of these groups carves out and defends its own territory, its own home range. Understanding these invisible boundaries is so important for managing the reserve effectively. And this territorial defense, it isn't passive. Researchers actually witnessed a fight break out between 2 of the groups, Mobila and Monaer, over territory and food. This is a massive finding. It tells us that resources are probably getting tighter, and competition is a very real, very dangerous factor in their day-to-day lives. And this brings us to another critical boundary,
The home range of one of these groups, the Colobo group, pushes right up against human agricultural gardens. This creates a classic potential conflict zone. It's a hotspot that's just waiting to flare up, and it demands our proactive attention before that happens. So, with all that data as our foundation, let's pivot. This is Section 4, Actionable Management Insights. How do we take all these scientific findings and translate them into a concrete conservation strategy that works on the ground? The research really points to a clear 4-part strategy where every single piece is connected. It starts with protecting their food and preserving their habitat. If we do that, it helps us manage conflict between the macaque groups. And all of this has to be done while we carefully monitor the boundary with human activity. See how it all fits together? Step 1. Protect their food source. This means we have to prioritize the protection and maybe even the regeneration of those Moraceae family plants we talked about. We need to be out there actively mapping and monitoring the health of these MVP food trees. It's a direct investment in their food security. Step 2 is to preserve their home. And remember, it's not just about what trees are there, but how they all connect. Any clearing or logging activities absolutely cannot be allowed to break up the connectivity of stratum B and stratum C. Maintaining that multi-layered highway in the sky is non-negotiable for their movement and survival. And finally, it all comes down to managing boundaries, both the internal ones and the external ones. Internally, we need to step up patrols in those known conflict zones, like where the Mata Air and Mobula groups overlap. And externally, we've got to establish a buffer zone and a monitoring program where the Colobo group's territory meets those farmlands. Being proactive here is everything. So, here's the bottom line. We have a population that's in decline, and we have hard evidence of competition for resources. The question for all of us as managers of this precious resource is this: how do we leverage these incredible new insights, everything from the specific trees they need to the canopy highways they travel, to build a more resilient ecosystem and secure a real future for the booted macaque?